Have you ever reached a point in your existence where you looked at something that used to give you joy and now you want anything but to look at it? Yeah, that's me with my bookshelves right now. Over the last 4 years, my favorite hobby fortunately turned into my job. And between receiving books from publishers, you guys graciously sending over gifts, and buying books myself, I have amassed over 800 books in my at-home library. To give you some perspective, I currently have 6 bookshelves sitting in my at-home office, basically spilling over. There are books that don't even have a proper spot. I've got piles of books on the ground plus a TBR card, and 332 of these books have yet to be read, meaning that 40% of my collection remains in unread purgatory. And friends, let me tell you, that haunts me worse than Catherine did Heathcliff, and that's saying a lot. So the goal for today is to get my collection down to at least 200 unread books, and you already know what that means. It's unhaul time. Oh, how I wish I could grow in size by saying it's unhaul time and grow tentacles for hands, but alas, I must settle for real hands and being 5 feet tall. But before any good unhaul, we must first reach maximum comfort levels, which means that we first make a coffee. Coffee has been acquired. If I could give every single one of you guys a coffee like this that I make, I definitely would. Cheers. Now, I like to think I'm generally pretty good at unhauling books. Anytime I do a recent reads wrap up or a monthly wrap up, I try and take out every single book I didn't enjoy for the most part, because they're going to start collecting dust on the shelves when I could simply give them to friends and family or donate them somewhere here in Panama so that somebody can potentially enjoy it more than I did. So generally, my preferred method of going about unhauling is to do so pretty consistently as I read and finish my books, but that's not always the case. There are definitely loads of books sitting on these shelves that I have grown some sort of attachment to, whether it's because it was gifted or the idea of the book at some point sounded really interesting to me, or that I still have the far-fetched hope of reading this sometime soon, even though I realistically know that that's not going to happen. So I think on today's docket, it is time to get cozy, drink our nice coffee, wear our nice comfies, and just go through every single one of my shelves and get rid of books I either know I have not enjoyed, I know I will probably never read or won't read anytime soon, or that I've got double copies of, or other formats of, or books that I did read and they've been hanging around on the shelves, but I literally have not looked at them twice ever since I finished them. So this is my formal invitation. Get cozy with me, and if you also need to unhaul any books, feel free to do so as I am doing it in this video, and let a girl know in the comment section if you have let go of any books recently, if you got rid of any books throughout the course of this video, or if you're planning on doing so soon, because I'd love to know. And on the topic of comfort and cozy, you guys already know unhauling can take up to hours. I'm gonna be moving around, grabbing books, stacking them up, doing some heavy lifting, as well as definitely climbing on top of chairs to get books that I otherwise would not be able to reach, which is why today I am wearing my comfiest sweats and undies in order to move around comfortably without feeling like the fabric is restricting me. And that is all thanks to Skims, which is partnering with me on today's video, and it is most definitely one of the coolest things I have ever done. Now, I'm a Skims girly through and through. I started wearing them about a year ago when I had first tried out one of their bodysuits, fell in love, use it all the time, but most recently I have fallen in love with the underwear in the Fits Everybody collection. Now, I have got this very specific list of requirements that underwear must meet in order for me to wear it consistently, and both the scoop bralette and their high-waisted thong, which is what I'm wearing right now, have met the quota to the point where I want to switch everything out of my closet to only this. And I will. So right now I'm wearing their scoop bralette in the shade Clay, and I personally really love bras that don't feel like they're digging into my skin, but that still hold everything in place. Also, I don't know if I'm the only one, back coverage, super important. I want everything to kind of fit into the bra, and for the bra to just kind of hold everything in place, and this one most definitely does. And then their high-waisted thong, this really is my savior, because as somebody who has got an apron belly, this one really has the coverage of their shapewear without being as high compression, and I really do love that. The fabric is super thin, which sounds odd, but it really does kind of make everything super smooth, and it really does hold everything up and in place. It is truly the weirdest contraption, but I am absolutely obsessed with it. Maybe something other big-bodied girls can relate to in the comment section, but there are often times where I'm wearing underwear and it feels like I'm wearing diapers. You guys may know the feeling, and I really do love that this is so breathable. Fabric is super lightweight. It just feels so good. It continues to astound me every day that I wear it. So if you'd like to check out their Fits Everybody collection, I will be leaving a link at the top of the description, but you can go to skims.com/MelReads to check out everything that they've got to offer, because these two pieces pieces I showed today is just the beginning of it. Their sizing goes from extra small all the way to 4X in a variety of different shades and colors. I would definitely encourage you guys to go check that out. Make sure to let them know I sent you. There is an after order survey and you can click on YouTube, get a little drop down menu, select my channel, and let them know that Big Sister Mel sent you to get your stuff. Okay? Fantastic. Welcome to Tackling the Mess. That's what I'm calling section 1 of this video because I'll likely break this up into sections because I don't know how else to title the absolute chaos I find myself in these days. Now, I think it goes without saying, but I'll still say it porque nunca hace falta uno, señores. But I'll also say it because I feel I don't say it enough. This behind me is something I'm incredibly grateful for. Every single one of the books that have made their way into my library, into my household, are all things I cherish like you guys have no idea, which is why I feel for a lot of these books that I realistically know I'm not going to pick up, I keep holding on to because there's some sort of memory attached to it, whether it was a special moment during sprint or somebody sending over or I got it for myself to celebrate something. There is just a memory with each of these books and I never thought it'd get to this point. I've talked about it before too. When I started booktube 4 years ago, I genuinely had zero expectations of this. I had done YouTube before with absolutely no payoff, and so I was fully expecting to be screaming down into the abyss, and so for this to be the result of 4 years of work and community building with you guys, it is just absolutely incredible, and I am constantly in awe when I walk into the office that this is a reality that exists inside my household, and I will never take this for granted. However, I think at this point, after 4 years of having started booktube and some of these books sitting here for about that long, I have to really just accept that in the 4 years I've been doing this, not only have my reading tastes changed quite a bit, the books I used to read 4 years ago are not the books that I'm reading now, and on top of that, the way I consume books these days, I'd like to think is a lot more mindful than the way I used to consume books back then. I used to buy everything under the sun and used to put everything under the sun in my wish list, whether it was an idea for a video that never actually saw the light of day, whether it was that something sounded even just remotely interesting to me, but I wasn't really curating a list based on what I knew I was going to end up liking, and that's how I go about it these days. I try and use the library as often as I can, try and use other bookish resources available to me like Everend and Audible and whatnot in order to listen or read books without having to actually physically buy a book. Obviously, there are times where I choose not to go through those channels, whether it's that a hold on Libby is too long or the audiobook doesn't really sound too interesting or another app that I'm using doesn't have the ebook for the book I am looking to read, and so then I'd go through the channel of getting it physically because I'm really looking forward to reading it sometime soon. And I think you guys may have been able to tell that anytime I have done a haul this year, I typically have been reading the books immediately after I get them in the coming months, and I did not used to do that back in the day. I just let books collect dust, and they still have been collecting dust because there are still hundreds of books in here that I have not read. And so my hope with doing this unhaul is to minimize the amount of unread books so that maybe by the end of 2025 I can say that 90% of my collection is read and I'm not overwhelmed by a crazy number of books unread, because it is overwhelming. Having 332 unread books, the majority of which I barely even look at, is starting to get overwhelming. That's why we call it tackling this mess. What is the mess? Me. It's not necessarily the shelves, it's the brain. Now, what I unhaul the most consistently are books that I did not enjoy. At the end of every month or at the end of every other month, I just look at the stack of books that I did not enjoy, I take them out of the shelf, I rehome them, either give them to friends or family, or I donate them, and that is a really good way to make sure that books I did not like are not cluttering my shelves. So I feel like the first natural step would be to go through every single one of my shelves and spot books that I have read somewhat recent that have not made their way out of the shelves yet, grab those and unhaul them. And you can get excited too, because doing an unhaul means that soon you'll have a bookshelf reorganization coming your way, and I think that, to me, is even more exciting. Welcome to the corner. We're a little bit washed out, but it's gonna be okay. First thing I know I'm gonna get rid of is going to be Wild Love by Elsie Silver. Now, you guys know I read this, I was severely disappointed by this book, and although the cover is really stunning, I really love the Rose Hill series covers. They're absolutely incredible. There's no reason why this should stay here because I know I'm never gonna pick this up again, not going to reread it, not going to give it the love that somebody else could, and so this is going. Even though it's painful, it's the first thing to go. Have to be honest with myself. I was really expecting a really cool romance, a single dad romance. I think the entire series is going to follow single dads. However, the thing with this book is that it's completely reliant on the pre-existent relationship between the two main characters, and instead of exploring what makes these two characters them and what unites them in their love, we instead see them be completely antagonizing with each other for a really long time, and also see our main character be incredibly bratty chatty, which I know is on purpose, but I really didn't like it. And then on top of that, Ford, the love interest, is also a newfound dad. And even the way that the book explores that is often very underwhelming because we're just told things instead of being shown them. And I was expecting to see a lot more of his relationship with his kid, and we did not see a lot of that. Instead, we just saw these two go at each other's throats and then go at each other's throats, if you know what I mean. So I think naturally this is the first to go. I also think it's time to move the chair that Vin is in. So a cat is being moved to the rug area because I can't fully reach for books this way. Literally look at her. She's just a queen being moved. She can't even be bothered, y'all. Lighting is really going to change as we move the camera around, but the question is how ruthless do I actually want to be? Because here's the thing, if you guys have watched my videos this year, then you know there's another Elsie Silver book that I did not enjoy, and it's hopeless. This is the special edition though, which is why I'm so, do I actually want to let go of it? I think I do, but at the same time, I did enjoy most of it, so I don't know if I should hold on to this or if I should let this go. I feel like what I need to do is start a maybe pile, because with this, it had all of the elements that I typically would like. It's got an age gap romance, small town romance, tortured hero romance. However, it definitely got to a weird point at the end where it seems like Bo, our love interest who is older than Bailey, was seemingly begging her to be together when she definitely wanted to pursue something different, and their age gap became very noticeable in not pleasant ways. And so that aspect of the book I really didn't enjoy, but I did enjoy the setup of it. The setup was quite nice. So I think this is going into the maybe pile, but definitely one that I'm looking at letting go of. Now, this is a book that I actually did enjoy when I read it, but will I ever reread it? Will I continue on with the series? Answer, honestly, is no. And that is Paola Santiago and the River of Tears. This is actually a middle grade in the Riordan Presents universe. In this one, we follow our main character, Paola Santiago, as she has to face off La Llorona. And it was actually very fun. I think if you're looking for maybe a book that tackles Latin folklore, it can be quite nice. I was obviously slightly spooked by this because I grew up with Los Cuentos de La Llorona, and honestly, never pleasant to hear or read about. I think there were still elements of the book that were underwhelming, if I remember correctly, back when I read it. But again, it's doing nothing on my shelves, and I really do need to free up my middle grade space. I think this needs to go as well. But it was a fun time. I just don't really need to keep it because if you've noticed, I never talk about it. Another one I'm letting go of is Sweet Bean Paste. This book was really underwhelming, and it really pains me still to this day to talk about it because I was expecting this to be a 5-star book. I was really excited about it. I was fully expecting to love it and love the messaging that a lot of people had talked about as being honestly the best and most heartfelt part of this book. However, the book really had a huge emphasis on leprosy, which I really wasn't expecting. And it sounds like a weird thing. It was very informative though. I definitely learned a thing or two, but I think when it came to the grander scheme of the thematic statement, it was better explained and better explored in the author's note than it was in the actual book, and it was really a slog to get through. I did not want to finish this book when I was reading it, and so while there are redeemable aspects to this and there are more wholesome elements to this in terms of the character's connection and really looking past the image that is being pushed about a specific individual and looking deeper than that, I think it was just okay, and so a lit fic I do not need to hold on to. Remember when I said that we'd be climbing into chairs? It's time.
I just hope not to fall by doing this.
Well, you can appreciate some Skims booty. Hello! I found another thing that needs to be let go of. And another one. I have got a cat who's joining me at this point in time. I think it's time for me to go down because I think Sil wants to take over the chair. 2 more books that need to go. We have The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket, right? Yes, I think so. Yes. Which is the first book in a series of unfortunate events. And then Green Glass House by Kate Milford. Green Glass House I DNF'd this year, and I've been holding on to it in the hopes that I'd feel like picking it up again and maybe finishing it. Has not happened. And I think at this point, if I ever did feel the urge to finish this, I'd probably just get the audiobook or borrow the ebook from Libby. It's not that big a deal. I don't need this. I feel like there's gonna be someone out there here in Panama that's going to enjoy this more than I will, because I read half of this book and literally nothing happened. Nada, señores. Nada interesante. And then this one was just weird. I read it. I listened to the audiobook. Admittedly, the audiobook is really good, which is why I listened to it to begin with, because I'd been recommended it countless times. However, the weird connotations of an older man wanting to marry a child, well, yes, to get her inheritance, but still to marry a child, it's just all kinds of off-putting that I personally do not want to read about. And so these 2 into the unhaul pile. And now we switch to water because I just finished the coffee and the jaw is already kicking. It's crazy. Another book I think I'm gonna get rid of is King of Bottle and Blood by Scarlett Sinclair. Now, a few unhauls ago, I actually let go of the sequel because I DNF'd it and I really did not like it. At this point, I've been holding on to the first book because I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a really good vampire paranormal romance. And I think what I liked the most about this was that although our love interest is super dominant, he still allows Isolde, our main character, to have her spot and for her to be the ruthless menace that she is. And I quite liked that he gave her her place without romanticizing that aspect. He just allows her to do her thing and gives her the space to exert her dominance and power too, which I quite enjoyed about this. And from what I remember, it didn't go into the realm of vicious little thing as a lot of romanticies do these days. However, I didn't enjoy the second book. I can't in good faith recommend the first one because who would I be to allow you to go into the second book when it was that terrible? And so I've been holding on to it for that reason alone because I liked this when I read it, but does it spark any sort of like feeling and joy when I see it? No. So I think this can go too. A little bit painful, not gonna lie, because vampire romances, good ones at that, are hard to find, but I think there are better ones out there that I can potentially find throughout time to keep and love and adore and recommend. Now, you guys may be shocked at this one. I don't want to hear any yelling. I still don't know if I'm gonna let go of this, but I think it's going into the maybe pile because I did DNF this and I have not felt the urge to pick this back up in the year and a half that I DNF'd this in. It's Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I know everybody raves about this book. Everybody loves it. I was very excited to read this because I'd seen several of my favorite booktubers really love this one. I was expecting to kind of go under that same realm of like, oh my god, I love it too. However, I didn't really gravitate toward this book at all after I got to a certain page count. It didn't really have anything to do with the fact that it had anything to do with a pandemic. I thought it was actually quite interesting to see, or get to see, almost nearly there, how art is still so prevalent despite it being such a rough time. Again, after I got to a certain page count, I didn't really feel motivated enough to pick this up. I didn't find that I wanted to learn more about the characters or the story, and so I just completely gave up. I put it down, never spoke about it again, and ever since, I think I DNF'd this in April of last year. Again, it was a soft DNF with the intent of picking it back up. Haven't thought about this once, and it's visible on the shelves too, but I just have not picked it up. I feel like you guys are gonna kill me for this one. I'm so sorry. Another book that has got to go is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I DNF'd this book 2 years ago, okay? 2 years ago. Literally, I think it was around July 2022. I was recently moved into my apartment. It was a Patreon book club pick, and I did not connect with this at all. I tried reading it several times, obviously holding on to it with the hopes that I would at some point pick it up again and enjoy it. However, the spark has not arrived 2 years later, and I have got other stories similar to this, which are retellings of 1001 Nights that I am more excited to read, and so this one has got to go because 2 years after having DNF'd this, I think is more than enough time for me to let go of this. In fact, this was sitting in my bedside table, like the book was on one side, and then on the other side, I had the dust jacket, and I'm pretty sure it stayed there for 2 years. I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it because I was really excited about this too, but I think it's high time I let go of this and give this to somebody who will enjoy it a lot more because I think I already know the person. Now, this is going into my maybe pile because I still don't know if I want to let go of this or not. It's Iron Widow. I have tried to read this about 3 or 4 different times. I never get past page 10, and I've tried to really connect with it with different ambiance rooms, without music, with a fireplace, just setting the ambiances in different ways to see if maybe it's just my brain, my ADHD brain not wanting to connect with this, or if it's actually the book and I's relationship. We're just not meant to connect in that way, you know? So I've been holding on to this since I first got it in 2021 from an Illumicrate box, and I still have not read it. So going into the maybe pile, I feel like for the books that I'm putting on the maybe pile, I feel like maybe we'll sample a little bit of it, maybe read a couple lines, see if maybe the brain thinks that it's interesting, but I will let it simmer for the books that I wasn't able to finish so that I can see whether I want to keep or let go of it. So going into the maybe pile, I'm not sure. It's also such a pretty book. The cover is stunning. I want to love this. I want to read it at some point. I keep hearing amazing things about it, but my brain, dude, my brain just does not want to engage. I don't know why. Another little stack making it into my maybe pile. I've got 3 Carrie Maniscalco books. Now, I don't know what I want to do with this. So the thing here is, I read Kingdom of the Wicked. I really enjoyed it. Kingdom of the Curse completely ruined it for me. At this point, I loved Throne of the Fallen, so I may just stick to her adult series and just let go of this because I really, at this point, do I need it? Do I recommend it? I can recommend it without owning it, you know? My recommendation is not dependent on having it physically to hold up, so I'm thinking of letting go of this. I remember really liking the atmosphere, really liking the romantic aspects of this book, and also really enjoying the mystery behind what happened to Emilia's sister, but do I think about this a whole lot? No, I don't. Same thing with Stalking Jack the Ripper. This is another series of hers, also YA. I enjoyed Stalking Jack the Ripper enough. I believe this was my first Patreon book club pick, actually. Was it? If that's the case, I feel like I have to keep it just for nostalgia's sake. So maybe this one's not going. I'm gonna create a subsection. Maybe they're going. But if it's the first one, I feel like it can't go because the other book we read that month, which was The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane, I already let it go because I really didn't like that one. So I feel like I need to keep at least one of them to like commemorate the start of Patreon. I feel like it needs to stay. However, Hunting Prince Dracula, am I ever going to read it? I have owned this book for 3 years now and I have never once felt the need to go into this. I find that I struggle quite a bit, and maybe it's just my ADHD brain. I'm quite good at making up endings and just feeling content with what I read without getting what's next. I'm good. And so with the ending of Stalking Jack the Ripper, while it is yes an open ending, I was satisfied. Which for some of you is going to sound so crazy, but I don't feel the need for a next book, especially because while we still follow the same characters, it's a completely different story. And I know you guys are gonna absolutely kill me because this is allegedly the best in the series, but I'm seriously just considering DNFing the Stalking Jack the Ripper series because I've never felt the urge to. So I feel like these just need to go. All 3 of these are going. Now, another one that you guys are gonna be like, Mel, what the hell is wrong with you? Legendborn. You guys know when I read Legendborn, I liked it enough, but I think as I've sat with it through time, I have liked it less and less. I found it to be very predictable and often underwhelming, specifically on the romance front. I really didn't like Selwyn. I did not think he was a good love interest, and it was also giving repurposed Mortal Instruments, and while in some aspects I enjoyed it, I found that in others it was quite literally like play by play, and so I think I'm gonna let go of this. I was holding on to both of these in the hopes that I reread Legendborn, and I still am inclined to say that I would at some point. Also because I have blood marks, I'm like, ooh, a reread of Legendborn, and then reading blood marks could be nice. It could be nice. It could be nice. So maybe this is, I'm gonna put this in the maybe pile. See, this is why I haven't been able to let go of it, because anytime I think about it, I want to keep it. I don't know what to do. Another 2 books for the maybe pile, and then 1 book that is actually going. Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. I enjoyed this enough when I read it. It's a Mulan Project Runway retelling of sorts. We have got a main character who is filling in for her dad in a dressmaking competition, and she's got to make 3 different dresses, one from the moon, one from the stars, one from the sun. It's got a romance with the quartz magician. I found this to be quite charming. I liked the first half more than I did the second, which I know is a lot of people's qualms with this first book specifically. I was curious enough back then to go into the second book. I didn't. It's been 4 years. Has it been 4 years since I read this? I feel like that sounds about right. 3 or 4 years since I read this. Have not read the sequel, so I don't need this. This one's going to pain me, and this one's going to pain some of you guys as well. Lovely War is another one that I'm thinking of letting go of. I mean, I look hot holding this book. God damn, does this book have a good cover. However, I have had this book for a while. I, in fact, have had the bookmark in here for 2 or 3 years, and I have not yet finished the book. And so I think this may be let go of. I thought that the premise was interesting. The story is told through the eyes of gods in a time of war, and our 2 main characters falling in love throughout that time. However, I found it to be somewhat like insta-lovey, and sometimes the narration from the gods is underwhelming. It doesn't feel absolute or omnipresent, and I didn't really love that because I thought the tone of the story would be very different. So I think in ways it was a little bit underwhelming, so it's going in the maybe pile. We'll taste test it, figure it out, see if we let go of it or not, but I think it's time because it's been a really long time. Carrying off these piles somewhere else because it's blocking the way. Pile number 2 is going on this side too. I have got 2 graphic novel series right here that I think it's time to let go of. One I'm gonna put in the maybe pile to then figure out, and then one that is for sure going. So the one that is for sure going is Saga. Now, if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, then you'd know how obsessed I was with Saga. I was reading this every readathon I made. I was just overly excited to read all of them, wanted to own all of them, and it's been basically 3 years, I think, since I read, what was the last volume I read? It might have been volume 4, because I don't know that I ever got to volume 5, and at this point in time, I don't remember a whole lot about this. Like, I remember the basics, but I don't remember the specifics from volumes 2 all the way through 4, and I don't know that I want to reread them to keep on going, and I know Brother Reads will really appreciate this, so I think I'm going to give these to him, because I remember him also reading, I think, volumes 1 and 2 back in the day and really loving them, and he just generally really loves graphic novels and comics and all that, so I think these will go to him, and they'll find a better home than mine at the moment, because I've neglected this for a really long time, and I just don't feel like going back to it. And then going into the maybe pile is Monstrous. Now, the reason why I'm putting this in the maybe pile instead of the letting go of it for sure is because I only ever read volume 1, I think. Did I read volume 2 ever? I don't think I did. I think I just read Awakening, and I remember really liking this. It was a very dark steampunk sort of story, and the illustrations for this are actually quite intricate, which I remember really loving. However, I never carried out with the series, and I don't know that I would want to nowadays. So maybe another series that's gonna make its way into Brother Reed's collection, but I may not end up keeping this. I feel like I'm more in the don't want to than I do, but I'm still going to put it in the, ooh, do I actually want to put it in the maybe pile, or do I just want to let go of it? I think I just want to let go of it. I think we're gonna commit to rehoming this. It feels painful to say, like, why do I hold on to things this way? But realistically, I read the first volume 3 years ago, still never continued. It's been too long. It's simply been too long, and there are other graphic novels that I would rather prioritize now than these, so I think I'm gonna have a heart attack. God damn it, I need to let these go. You guys may be surprised with the fact that I'm letting Tokyo Ghoul go. I read, I think, up to volume 4 or 5, or maybe even 6, because I started reading them digitally after a while because I didn't have the space to get the physicals and actually fit them onto the shelves, and I was getting more and more underwhelmed the more I went along with the series, and so I don't think I want to own these, nor do I think I want to continue with the Tokyo Ghoul series. I think there are other, not similar stories, but definitely action-packed, shonen-like stories that I would like to read more than Tokyo Ghoul. And this one we follow our main character, Ken Kaneki, who is super excited to go out on a date with this girl that he is really, really digging. However, the only reason why this girl wants to go out on a date with him is to actually eat him, because she is a ghoul and they obviously eat humans. And instead of killing him, she ends up turning him into a hybrid. So he is now half human, half ghoul, and he has to learn how to navigate the world where people are constantly persecuting ghouls and want to kill them off. And we see him really learning the ropes on how to be a creature like this, but also how to hide himself in plain sight and also how to use his abilities. And then on top of that, there are like police investigations along the way and everything. And the first 2 or 3 volumes, I can't really remember about the third, but at least the first 2 were really interesting, but it started declining from there. And I've heard that that is a huge critique for the series, where it just keeps on going on a downward spiral, and then Tokyo Ghoul Re is something that a lot of people don't love. So I'm just letting go of this. Again, all these graphic novels and mangas will go directly to Brother Reed's hands because he's read a bunch of these already digitally, but he doesn't own them physically, and now he gets to own them physically. I went through a Death Note obsessed haze, I think as many people do. I absolutely love the anime, which I know receives a lot of critique because it is very different from the manga series, which is why I had gotten the physical manga to read and figure out what was so different between one and the other. And then I read volume 1. I didn't keep on reading. I don't even think I read volume 2 in this black edition, and I have not carried out since. I have not looked back since. I have lived down my Death Note craze, and these days I'm not so interested in continuing, and so I think it's another one that's going to go to Brother Reed's. He also really loves Death Note, and I don't think I need to own this anymore because I don't know that I want to go on with the series. I find that I am less and less concerned with owning graphics and comics and mangas and manhwas unless it is a series that I absolutely adore with my whole being, that I want to own them physically. And sadly, Laito, it's been a really long time, my friend. Although I did love that little shit. He is an absolute menace and I loved him for it. However, again, it's just been too long and I am not going to re-enter this world, I don't think. You see this? It's going into the maybe pile. This is Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe? I think it's Smith. But I've got the first 3 volumes right here. I remember being obsessed with Lore Olympus when the first few volumes were coming out. It is a Hades and Persephone retelling, but it is obviously in graphic novel form. The illustrations are gorgeous. They're super bright and colorful. And I think seeing Hades and Persephone strike up the relationship as do retellings go, I think was super exciting at the time. However, I find with graphic novels and with manga and comics and anything to do with illustrated form, if I don't read them back to back to back to back and I am not caught up by the time that the next volume's coming out, I find that I lose motivation very quickly to keep on going with the series. And I was caught up and then I wasn't, and now I don't even know which volume this series is in. I just don't think I'd like to continue this anymore. I think there are other series that I'm way more excited about and that I am keeping up with these days, or that I'd like to catch up so that I can keep up with it. And sadly, I don't think Lore Olympus is one of them. So I think this can find a better home. It is kind of sad to let these go because I remember them just bringing me so much joy at a time where I really wasn't doing well. However, I think they need to go. I haven't looked at them twice. It feels right to let them go. Maybe it'll bring joy to somebody else. But god damn it, why is it so hard? I feel like I'm gonna start crying at some point in this unhaul. Like, why am I holding on to these things? Guys, need to be ruthless. Slay your enemies and all that. You guys may also be surprised at this because you remember how obsessed I was with Blood on the Tracks. I have not looked at a Blood on the Tracks volume in such a long time. I also feel like this manga series like slowly started becoming less and less interesting to me personally, and it just started getting kind of repetitive and monotonous for me, and I didn't love it. Felt like volumes 1 and 2 had such a nice punch to them, and then when I got to volumes 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, I think I got up to the 6th one. I might have borrowed one from Libby or two. I can't remember at this point, but yeah, I just didn't really care anymore, and I think this can also go. My brother has only read the first one and he loved it. He read it, I think, before I did, but by the time that I bought it, like, he read my copy, and so I think he's going to really enjoy owning these physically, but also carrying on with the series, so I think these can go to him. I was gonna put these in the maybe pile, but I think the more I talk about it and how much I have not looked back since, I think these can go. God damn, I did not expect to unhaul these many things that I've already read. We may have to revisit this. Do I actually want to put this in the maybe or the let go? I'm not going to keep reading this. Like, I have to be realistic. These are going. They are going. These are actually all books that I've read somewhat recently in the past few months that I need to let go of because I definitely did not enjoy these enough to keep them. And although I would like to, just for sentimentality's sake, I definitely do not need to hold on to these. So the first one is backwards, Cat Plus Gamer Volume 1. I have decided that if I ever do want to carry out with the series, I can do so digitally, but I really don't need to own this. I think there are other mangas that, again, I would like to collect more. And as far as cat mangas go that I've read recently, it's definitely not my favorite. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches is going next. I really wanted to keep this because the author is coming out with a new book, I think at the start of 2025, because the date was pushed back. However, I did not enjoy this enough to keep it. Have to be realistic here. I did not like the romance. I thought that the world building was the most interesting element of this book, and yet we dove deeper and deeper into the romance, and the romance was severely underdeveloped, really insta-lovey and cheesy, and just had elements that I typically don't like. I definitely think it's more along the lines of a paranormal romance, if you want to call it that, or like a witch romance, rather than a full-blown fantasy, and I know a lot of people like to pitch it as a cozy fantasy. I feel like that's where it went wrong because I had a completely different expectation as to what it would be. Then we have got The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. Although I've really enjoyed the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, The Reappearance of Rachel Price was a severe disappointment for me as well. I found that the elements of the book that were more interesting were also underdeveloped, I think specifically under the conversation of mental health, mental illness, PTSD, which seemingly should show up in a book like this because of the circumstances, are not talked about at all, and I really wish that the author would have gone deeper into that. And then also the main character being stubborn and unlikable sometimes definitely did not fall under my list of things that I'd like, and so I am also letting go of that one, even though it is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition and it is really pretty. I am never going to recommend it. I just have to be real and let go of it. Another book I'm probably never going to recommend is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I found this book to be very repetitive and often very underwhelming when it came to the fantasy element, which is what I was most excited about. This book can literally be boiled down to the Spanish Inquisition and nothing else, and I mean, it does deliver on that. However, the book does a really poor job at propelling the events of the story forward sometimes, and it kind of gets stuck on the same things over and over again and reinforcing the same things over and over again when they don't really need to. Song of the Six Realms, another one that I was really excited about. It was supposed to be a gothic fantasy, and it definitely did deliver to an extent on that end. However, I think the main character was severely also disappointing. Can you tell that severe is like my favorite word of the day? I think when authors dumb down their characters for the sake of making them fit into the YA age group, I really don't like it. I feel like there should be more credit to the reader when it comes to these stories, and this one just really over-explained itself a lot of the time, and the main character really didn't have a compelling story in my opinion, as well as the book kind of wandering aimlessly a lot. I really didn't like it. And then we've got these two. Leather and Lark, I'm so sad to let go because it was a gift, and it's also part of the Ruinous Love trilogy. I really loved Witcher and Blackbird, I really did, but I DNF'd this, and I just know I'm never going to finish this because la rabia que le tengo a este libro es demasiado grande, jóvenes. I tried to read this, but nothing about this pulled through for me. Not the characters, not the professions, not their backstories, not their chemistry, not their romance, definitely not the smut, and definitely not the plot that was promised that was never delivered. It's kind of like George R.R. Martin if you think about it. The prince that was promised and then the book never got here. And then we have got Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Ijimide. You guys know how much I love Ace of Spades. However, this book did not pull through for me. I was very disappointed that one, the synopsis reveals things that happened in the last 100 pages, so it made for a very underwhelming read, I think, on that end. And then on top of that, a lot of what the book focuses on is not listed as a trigger, nor is it listed as part of the synopsis, which I get it in ways it is a twist, but also triggering for a lot of people, boys. And I did not think that the elements combined here were really conducive for success. I found it to be kind of all over the place tonally. Pains me as well. There are some good authors in here, but I can't. I really cannot. Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, I think also needs to go. I remember actually being surprised by this and liking it back when I read it, but our main character ends up dating her ex-boyfriend's dad. And you know what? It wasn't so bad. However, do I ever recommend this? Pick this up, think about it, look at it? No. So I think this can go. As goes every MelReads video, I ran out of battery, so recharged battery is on the camera. However, eating and keeping ourselves fed is important, so I'm going to go downstairs, fetch the food that I ordered because I totally forgot to pull out my protein of the day, and so I don't have anything defrosted or meal prepped or anything. So ordered some sushi, we're going to eat, and then we are going to resume the unhauling, and it'll potentially still be a good time. I can't believe I've pulled out these many books that I've read, but honestly that's great because what I want to own and what I want on my shelves are either things that I'm excited to read sometime soon or things that I've read and loved and that I want to display for a really long time to come. So it's astounding because I haven't even gone deep into the books that I own that I have not yet read. So is this really going to bring down the number of unread books, or is this just going to bring down the number of owned books? Because at this point, it's looking like there's one clear answer. I don't even, where are the 300 books I haven't read? Guys, I feel like we need to pull up Goodreads at some point. I think it's gonna be section 2 of this video, looking at Goodreads, because where are they? I feel like there are not 300 unread books in here. I refuse to believe that that's my reality, because where are they? I mean, they're probably all over, but like, come on now. Later, a little bit of a break, and a ring light turned on because it is currently dark as hell outside. It's going to start raining sometime soon, and you can tell because you can't see anything outside. It literally looks like it's 10 p.m. and it's 4:30. It's crazy. That said though, I did pull out a few more books that I did read or attempted to read, and I simply do not want to keep them anymore because again, they're not doing anything here. The first one being Death Note, the Los Angeles BB murder cases. I remember enjoying this back when I read it, but again, I was like deep into the Death Note trenches and reading anything to do with the story and Laito and him murdering people because he thought he was above everybody. And then because I finished the show, that led to a hyperfixation on L, which is the detective that aids and abets the game of cat and mouse. This particularly follows L, and I don't hold an appreciation as much as I did back then for it now. Again, brother reads will appreciate this one. I've got this really old edition of Alice in Wonderland. It's really cool because the illustrations are really gothic. The whole appeal of this back when I got it, I remember, was the dust jacket. I don't know, I got this when I was like 10 years old, I think, and I ate up the dust jacket apparently because it's nowhere on site. I have not looked at this book once, obviously, since I read it for the first time. I may end up repurchasing the edition so that I can have it with the dust jacket, but this just looks all kinds of wrong. Then we have got Her Radiant Curse by Elizabeth Lim. This one was just very underwhelming for me too. This is the prequel to the Six Crimson Crane series, and this was honestly such a letdown. I was fully expecting things to play out very differently, for the retelling aspect to be even more compelling, for the romance to make sense, maybe even for the sister to be a little bit evil, and none of those things panned out into any anything concrete. In fact, the book got less and less interesting as it went along. There was very little about this that I enjoyed, and so I'm hoping that I enjoy the main series, but this one sadly was average. I think I gave it like a 3-star, so it wasn't the most revolutionary thing ever. I think I don't need to give an introduction to Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I really didn't like this one. However, I did annotate quite a bit as I was reading before it all went downhill for me, so I think I'm gonna give this to one of my best friends who I'm sure will appreciate the unhinged annotations on this book as she reads. I think this one's gonna go to her when she comes over this Saturday because I think she's going to appreciate this book a lot more than I did, so hoping that's the case. Lo único que falta es que me venga y me diga, yo, I didn't like it, so I'm hoping that she does. And then last but not least, I have got The Last Magician. Now, I attempted to read this book way back when. I even had like an annotation key and everything. I ended up DNFing this book because I just really wasn't feeling too compelled to read this. Again, I do have some annotations right at the start of the book. However, I just never really connected with this one. I can't even remember what it's about. I just know it involves some level of time traveling. It's a fantasy. I'm pretty sure this is YA, right? I think so. Simon Pauls. Does Simon Pauls even exist anymore? I don't think I've seen a single book published by Simon Pauls ever. So I really don't know. But I'm thinking it's time for me to let this go because I'm not gonna read it. This concludes the last book I'm getting rid of that I either read, attempted to read, or that I DNF'd. So section 1 of tackling this mess, done. Remember how earlier I said that the sky was super dark? It is now developed into a full-on isolated thunderstorm. Welcome. I feel like I am devising an evil plot and suddenly all of my secrets are coming to light, and the ambiance room, also known as the thunderstorm, is really helping it put a little macabre twist on it all. Welcome to section 2 of this unhaul, which I'll be calling A Clinical Eye. Now in part 1, I managed to get rid of 50 books exactly. 50 books that I read, maybe didn't like them, maybe I just don't want to hold on to them, books that I might have started, DNF'd at some point, and I am ready to finally let them go. Now, the reason why I'm calling section 2 A Clinical Eye is because we are going to be using Goodreads. Now, what I'm thinking is that Goodreads will probably allow me to feel a bit more detached from my shelves. Now, I know a lot of people use their to-be-read shelf on Goodreads to shelve basically everything that they find interesting and that at some point they'd like to read. I personally use my to-be-read shelf to shelve every single thing I own physically, and that is to give myself a visual representation of how many books I actually own, but also if at any given point I want to make a video relating to Goodreads and Goodreads choosing a book for me, or even if I pull something from the TBR jar that alludes to Goodreads choosing something, got to love the thunder, holy shit, then my Goodreads is updated to everything I own so that it makes the job just a little bit easier. God damn, this really is like either the best ambience room you've ever heard or the most sinister video you have ever watched. Welcome. Point is, I am thinking that if I look through my Goodreads in tandem to looking at my shelves, I will probably get to be just a little bit more ruthless in what I am letting go of. Because if I see it on my shelf, I'm like, damn, it looks nice. Maybe at some point I'll read it, but if I look at it as a list on Goodreads, I feel I'll look at it and go, what is this even doing here? Is this even in my household? And I can just let go. Damn, it really does give me a sinister twist to have that thunder. Mother Nature. So let us look at Goodreads. Welcome to my Goodreads. Now, when I said I was going to look through Goodreads, I didn't mean I alone was going to look through it. I meant we're collectively going to look through my Goodreads. Now, I think this is going to be really helpful to kind of look at things more objectively and go, am I actually going to read this? Or is this going to sit on my to-be-read shelf on Goodreads for another 3 years? Because if that's the case, then it can most certainly go. I have also, because I am a practical girl through and through and I don't want to pull out every single book if I don't need to, I have made a spreadsheet called Book on Haul, and I have made 2 different rows. I realized I could be more intricate than this. I did think about putting the authors and how long I've owned it for, so that again, I could look at things more objectively, but listen, we're practical and to the point in this household. I'm not about to overcomplicate things where I don't need to. So 2 simple rows. Ones that I am 100% sure I'm getting rid of, and then books that I may be letting go of by the end of this. I think it's going to be really helpful to also have a maybe pile just like section 1 so that I can fully settle into the idea of letting go of these books if I'm kind of doubtful at the moment, because I definitely think I'm gonna get rid of every single book in the maybe pile in section 1. So I feel like this is gonna be good, which is why it's called A Clinical Eye, though a reality check could also be a really good title for this, because I feel looking at things on my Goodreads will be a lot more objective. Because listen, I've got 332 books in here that I have not read that I allegedly own physically. I don't know where they are because I look at my shelves and I'm like, damn, most of it is read. I don't know if maybe I've just settled into the idea that this is what my shelves look like, so I don't fully compute everything that's unread, but I've got 17 pages worth of alleged unread books on Goodreads, so I think it's high time that we look at this. First thing I see is The Death of Jane Lawrence. I remember being really interested in this book because it was pitched as a crimson Crimson Peak turned novel. I really liked Crimson Peak when I watched it. It's honestly a really fucking good film. I mean, Guillermo del Toro in anything he does. I thought the book sounded very interesting because of that fact. However, it has been shelved for how long? 3 years now. Am I realistically going to read this? I don't think so. But I also don't know. So I think maybe we can shelve this as maybe we'll let go of and make a decision later. The Death of Jane Lawrence, and we'll see where that takes us later. But for now, maybe. The Meet Cute Club surprisingly doesn't have that nice an average rating. I don't know why I thought that people had loved this a lot more than a 3.24, but honestly a gay romance surrounding books is something I could really vibe with. The book is really short, so I feel like it's going to be really good for either a readathon or a sleepover video. So I think I'm going to keep this one, and if I don't read it by the year, then it's going, because it's been shelved for 4 years now. The Fraud Squad by Kyla Zhao is a book that I think I am going to let go of. Now, when I had initially bought this book, I was under the impression that it was going to be a romance, and to my understanding, this is more so a contemporary story that in the background has got a romance, and I don't know that I'm not interested in this book anymore. See, the thing with average ratings is that you never really know which way it's going to swing. I've definitely read books that are lower rated that I've loved, as well as backwards books that have been highly rated that I definitely disliked, but I think this one, it's been so long since I got it. I tried the first chapter. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was anything revolutionary. So I think the Fraud Squad is definitely going to go. Because if I didn't read it then, am I really going to read it now? The next one I spot that I don't know if I want to keep is The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I never really know how to pronounce his last name. I always say Michaelides, but it could be completely wrong. I think the concept of this sounds interesting. It's about an ex-movie star and her famous friends whose spontaneous trip to a private Greek island is upended by a murder. Now, what I'd be curious to see is if the audiobook for this is good, because if the audio for this is good, I'll probably just do the audio and then get rid of the physical. I find that with mystery thrillers, a lot of the time, I don't really care about owning them. They don't do a whole lot on the shelves. It's not like I recommend them very often. I also don't read from the genre very often, so I feel like it's one of those that I have no qualms reading digitally or to listen to on audios. I don't know. I've got one experience with Alex Michaelides and it was okay. It wasn't like the most revolutionary thing ever. I think this is gonna go under the may let go pile because I, again, don't have an affinity with like thrillers and mysteries and horrors. It's one of my least read genres, and although it sparks some level of curiosity, definitely not enough for me to go, yes, I'm dying to keep it. So going to put that on that pile. Next thing I see is Court of the Vampire Queen, and I think we can start opening several at the same time. Now I know for sure the Sea Witch I am letting go of. That is a Katie Robert book. I am going to pull all of these books out, obviously, in due time, but I just want to look at some synopses and see what's up. So 3 powerfully alluring vampire men and 1 queen to rule them all. Is this like a reverse harem? What is this? I own this. I just don't know exactly what this book is about. All Mina ever wanted was to escape her father's control. Half human, half vampire, she lived eternally torn between the 2 worlds. Now, Katie Robert has singularly given me a good book. Literally the one. One that is redeemable as well, but other than that, don't really love her books, and yet I own quite a bit of them. Now, it seems to have really great reviews. I don't know if I should. I love the, is this the worst book I have read this year? Very possible. I don't know if I should or want to keep this. I feel like this is one of those books where I'm swinging. Court of the Vampire Queen. Let's put that on the maybe pile because I feel I would have no qualms with letting that go. We have got the X-Hex, which I don't know. I got the paperback and I also have the sequel. I just don't know if it's something that I want to be keeping. Le Petit Mort is another one that I just don't know. The Verifiers, Spitting Gold. I remember being quite interested in that when I got a Book of the Month copy, but I just don't know. Violet Made of Thorns, My Heart is a Chainsaw, Soulmates. I think we can just speed through this process of me just opening a bunch of books and then just writing down a list, and then I can come back and show those books to you physically or just kind of talk you through my process. But for right now, I think a list needs to be made and I don't necessarily need to talk you through all of it. So let us get into this whole thing, and I'll see you in a little bit. outages later and I am back. It's been hell tonight. I just hear police cars and ambulances just running through because I will assume there are some sort of emergencies around, and the thunder is still going, the rain is still going. It's absolutely crazy. I was not aware that there was a thunderstorm scheduled for today, apparently, allegedly, and they did roll out a warning. I just didn't see it. And so it was a little bit of a surprise, but we are back. And I've got updates. Let me share my screen with you real quick. Welcome to the spreadsheet. So we have made some progress with this. I have been looking at different books and just adding things and reading synopses. So it hasn't been maybe that interesting for you guys, but I think it's been really eye-opening for me to see just how many books I have got here that I am not particularly interested in. And I do think I can spot with certain titles exactly what buzzwords got to me back then. But many of those things are things that I don't find nearly as appealing nowadays, or I've read stories similar, and so I know that those dynamics are not something that I like, and so I think it has helped me kind of narrow down what to let go of. Currently sitting at 42 books that I am parting with, which is really good. Now, this last one is the Night Circus. Don't get scared. I have 2 copies of the Night Circus, and I'm letting go of the special edition, which I know a lot of people are going to be like, Mel, what the heck are you doing? But honestly, special editions for me are whatever. I have no affinity towards the book because I have not read it yet, and although it is a 5-star prediction and one that I want to read hopefully before the year's over, I still just don't know. And do I want to hold on to both copies? I also don't know. So 42 books on the I'm definitely getting rid of them, and then we have got 18 books in the maybe pile. Now, I have consulted with a friend and she says that I would probably like We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, but not so much The Haunting of Hill House. And I trust her because she knows my taste and she knows that I really don't have an affinity for horror. In fact, as I have gotten older, I like horror less and less. There's something about it that I find deeply unsettling, and I already have trouble sleeping at night sometimes. Maladaptive daydreaming and an overactive imagination will do crazy things if you're already like spooked by the supernatural. So I don't think when it comes to horror that I want to dive too deep into it when it comes to the literature aspect, nor in film, because I've just stopped watching horror movies altogether, especially if it's got anything to do with the supernatural. So I had to consult for that one. Again, in the maybe pile, we'll consult later on. I'll show you the options. Maybe we'll read a little bit of it and then we'll make proper choices. But for right now, things I am for sure letting go of, we have got 42, which is honestly not bad. And I am only on page 9 of 17, so I still have 8 more to go. I am hoping that because we are barely halfway through looking at my to be read list on Goodreads, that I can potentially add either 42 more or 60 more so that we can get to 100 books unhauled, because I desperately would love to condense this to be read shelf. I don't know how I'm gonna do this, guys, but let us keep looking through some of these synopses. I am currently looking at Norwegian Wood. I am planning on starting a Read It or Unhaul It series here on my channel. So for these books, god damn, that thunder always scares me. Love thunder, love the ambience, but I feel like my building is going to implode whenever it thunders. It's crazy. However, I am going to start a Read It or Unhaul It series on my channel. So what I'm thinking is, for all of these books that I am not so sure about, that do sound kind of interesting, but I don't know if it'll be my cup of tea, but I have owned and I am probably more curious than not, I am going to keep it. And the Read It or Unhaul It series, I think, is going to be really helpful to narrow down if these are books that I do want to keep, if I do want to read them, and help me figure out what to do after the fact. I think that'll probably give me more time to make an informed decision for some of these books, because not gonna lie, some of these are hard choices. But Norwegian Wood, I think, is staying. Got Writers and Lovers by Lily King, which I was very interested in and I still am. I love literary fiction, you guys know this, and what I've heard about this book has been really, really good. I have heard that this book mostly explores a life of instability at an age where people really push for stability, and we follow our main character who really doesn't fit the mold of what society would like people's lives to look at when they are in their 20s or 30s. She is facing debt. Her mother has recently passed away. She's been writing a book for the longest time, and it just seems like she cannot get any wins despite trying her hardest. And then we have got I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter. I distinctly remember being really interested in this book back when I got it. I had also heard really amazing things about it. However, I think when it comes to YA fiction, I really gravitate towards reading it digitally these days or to listen to the audiobook because they do make for really great audiobook experiences. And generally what I have also found is that particularly for fiction or contemporary stories, the young adult section tends to have better narrators than the adult section. So I feel like this one could make a really great audiobook while I do my diamond painting. I think I'm going to let go of the physical, but only because I feel the audiobook is going to be the way to go. I know for sure another one that's going is The Burning Girls by CJ Tudor. I know this author is notorious for actually doing like supernatural stories, like full-blown horror, and I, as we've established, don't love that. 20-year-old Mel would have been very brave, but 24-year-old Mel would not be. So I think I'm letting that one go. The Last Magician, we've already spoken about. This Savage Song by V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab is so hit or miss for me. I'm going to read the synopsis and figure it out. Year of the Reaper, I know for sure I am letting go of because I remember not even being that interested in the book when I got it in a book box back in the day. So nothing's changed ever since I got the book, and I think it's time for me to let that go. Trick Mirror also. I literally got this book because I saw Leone talk about it and I was like, damn, Leone makes everything sound good. Battery number 2 has died, so we have fetched battery number 3 and we are back on the desk, ladies and gents. But yeah, Leone makes everything sound good. I just don't think I was ever that interested in it to begin with, so I think I can part with Trick Mirror and be completely okay with it. Now, The Raven Boys, I feel like that's gonna be a tough call. Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. I feel like I need to make choices in that regard because I DNF'd the book last year or 2022, and I'm pretty sure it was last year, and I have not picked it back up, and I don't think I will. The Wrath and the Dawn is another one that I don't know what to do with. The Girls I've Been. I am definitely keeping all of this. Station 11, we've established I'm getting rid of. The Reading List I'm keeping. Notes on an Execution I'm keeping. True Biz, let's check that out. And then let us move on to page 11 and keep on looking. Bear and the Nightingale. Do I want to keep that one? It's been on the shelves for so long. Same with Razorblade Tears, Soul Eater. I'm gonna have to read that somewhat soon because if I don't read Soul Eater soon, I feel like I'm gonna have to let that go because it's been sitting on the shelves for a minute. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea is staying. I've heard it be compared with Studio Ghibli too many times to not keep that book, so I think that's staying. Children of Blood and Bone. I tried reading it once, but definitely want to give it another shot to see if maybe I'll like it more this go around. But The Dark Sand Still, Loisona. Do you guys remember the time, if you've been here for a while, where I was obsessed with reading Loisona and then I never did? Yeah, I remember that very vividly, and I still have not read it, so we need to make choices. I'm going to try and speed through these last few pages so that we can start pulling things physically from the shelves, and we'll circle back. We'll be back. Remember when I said I wouldn't do anything intricate to the spreadsheet? It's still not intricate maybe, but it's definitely a little bit of a change. I have decided to separate the spreadsheet into sections, just like I'm making sections in the video so that I properly know what's going in which section. And I feel like I may do separate columns to then figure out where each of the books is going and where I'm donating it so that I've got just a better sense of order with this whole thing. Currently, if I count all of the books from section 1, we are 50 books in. If I count all of the books from section 2, this is 81, and this right here is 7. We are 88 books in for a total of 118 books, which is overwhelming as hell. And I don't believe I'm done yet because I still have to properly look at the shelves, start pulling the ones from section 2 out, and then figure out after the ones from section 2 are out what else needs to come out of the shelves. And I am already starting to get a bit overstimulated because I did not think it'd be this difficult. 1 and 2, this overwhelming. So we're definitely splitting the filming of this into 2 days because there's just simply no way this is all getting done tonight. I don't think so. I also have to take a break to eat because it's about to be 9 p.m. Let us break for dinner. I'll be back and we'll go from there. a pile here, and then we have got all this, friends. So the unhaul piles are looking absolutely crazy, but good for day one. What I think I'm going to do is break for the day because it has been a long and arduous day of looking at the shelves and figuring out what to get rid of, and I feel like I am barely halfway through this journey, so I'm thinking break for the night because it's about to be 11 p.m. and then we can reconvene tomorrow, look at all of these books from this pile right here that I want to get rid of, see if maybe I want to hold on to any of them, kind of skim through the books a little bit, and then we can move on to phase 3 of this operation, because yes, there is phase 3. So me on the shelves, we'll see you tomorrow. Welcome to day 2, friends, the continuation of section 2 of this video called A Clinical Eye Welcome. I can't stop saying the titles for the section, so welcome to day 2. This situation is officially out of control. My office is looking all kinds of crazy. I am slightly overstimulated and I already want to get all of these books out of the office because I am living in chaos right now. And the bookshelves don't bother me as much because obviously they're going to be revamped. I need to figure out a new organizational system that is going to happen over the coming weeks. So the bookshelves don't bother me as much as the fact that I can't properly walk or sit in many places in the office, but also very rewarding because that's how you know that the unhaul is doing well, going well, and that we're actually getting rid of books that I realistically know I'm not going to be reading or books that I want to pass along for very specific reasons. I'll also probably turn on the ring light at some point because it's starting to get really, really dark. I hope it doesn't storm today because yesterday was a really random moment and today we actually didn't have water citywide. Things were looking crazy. I hope it doesn't happen again today. We'll see what happens. We'll see if we get any natural ASMR. Point is, I need to show you all of the books I actually ended up pulling from the shelves. You're going to see a really big variety from these stacks. You're going to see books that I have progressively lost interest in as the years have gone by. Things that reside mostly outside of my taste these days. Also books that I definitely can pass along to better hands, people that are still going to enjoy them. You're also going to see books that are repeat copies, so I have another edition of said book. You're also going to see a small little stack of books that I am giving away to a very special person in my life because her daughter wants to read these books, and so I thought what better way to pass these along than to pass them on to somebody close to me and I can just get the audiobooks for them because I've already sampled the audiobooks before or I've read part of the audiobooks before and I know they're really good, and so it seemed like the best course of action, specifically also because what I am trying to reduce the most at the moment is my YA section because I am rarely reading YA books, and anytime I try and read YA books, siento que les agarro todavía más tirria. I don't want to call it a dislike, but definitely YA has gotten to a point where for me, it's just not as enjoyable as it used to be. And I have to be realistic. I'm gonna keep a few, obviously, that I still want to read at some point. I may or may not throughout time. They may or may not stay or leave. However, the majority of them I have to embrace. I don't look at twice, and they're not the first books that come to mind when I am making my monthly TBR, and so they've got to go. First stack right here are books that I have got double copies of. Now I know you guys are going to scream at me because you're gonna be like, Mel, really, the special edition? But again, I don't hold any affinity towards the Night Circus, so like, yes, it's a really pretty book, but this means nothing to me because I haven't read it yet. And I really have no business keeping this around when I have, again, the perfect person to give this to that I know is going to adore it because she was actually inquiring about where I got my tea set from the Night Circus, and I think she's going to really appreciate this one. Then I have got The Diviners by Liv Bray, which I've been holding on to because it's the original cover. However, I have the Fairy Loot special editions, and although this is my annotated edition, I don't need both of them realistically, and this is a space on my shelves that could go towards something else, so this one's going, as well as Magnolia Park's A Long Way Home. Fret not. You guys know I loved this book. However, I got this copy from, I believe it was Amazon, and I was fully under the belief based on the ISBN number that this was going to be the US edition, and it ended up being the UK one, which is slightly taller than the other editions. Also, it said it would get here in like new condition, and you can see just right here that there is like some level of damage to the book. The cover itself got here like super bent at the back as well. Like the book got here really damaged, and I already have a US copy of this, so I don't need a repeat, so that one can go as well. And then maybe a little bit more silly goofy, Lord of the Rings. Now you guys don't get scared. I don't hate Lord of the Rings. That's not the reason why I'm getting rid of this. I also don't have another copy yet, but I will make sure to secure one. But if you guys were there on the sprint where I realized this. I have had this book for I think 2 or 3 years now, and because I had not read it yet, when I picked it up to actually read it, I realized my copy looked something like this, where the words are not legible and there are loads of pages that are completely faded. So I got a faulty copy. Because I got this so long ago, there's like no way that I can get this replaced. So there's that. I'm definitely gonna have to get myself another copy of Fellowship of the Ring. I don't know if I'm gonna go for the same edition. I'm scared of getting another one exactly like this, but I liked these covers. This is screaming like first edition without actually being a first edition, and I think it's just screaming the time where it was published in. The covers are very different to what we see now, more popularized, and so that's why I got this one. A bummer, but it's got to go at this point. These books right here escaped my notice when I was unhauling in section 1, but these are also books that I DNF'd or I didn't like back when I read them. And the first one is Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This was a complete miss for me. It was so predictable. I really didn't love the sequence of events in the story. I was expecting a lot more from this book. And again, as I've established before, thrillers are kind of a tricky book genre for me. I often want to read them. They're often disappointing. And then the ones I end up owning for some reason are the disappointing ones, at least for me personally. So that one's gotta go. Indigo Ridge, another one. I was hoping to collect the entirety of the series. I may still end up collecting the series, but I do think I'm gonna read them on KU because I do have Kindle Unlimited and see what happens on Juniper Hill and if it's worth it going forward. But I didn't like this enough to keep it. I think I gave it 3 stars when I read it, so it's completely fine to get rid of it. And then I've got The Damned by Renee Ahdieh. I really loved The Beautiful. The Beautiful was so good. I was really excited to have a fantasy with a paranormal romance, and the second book just went in a completely different direction than I was expecting. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I know a lot of people have loved it still, but I was fully expecting it to be contained to what we saw in book 1, and the way that the world expands in here was not what I was looking for from the series, which is completely okay either way. So I am going to be getting rid of The Damned. I'm keeping The Beautiful because again, I really loved it, but book 2 for me was just a no. And then Tomorrow Times 3, I attempted to read this book I think 4 different times. I never finished it. I'm not gonna try anymore. I'm not gonna try and push it. So I'm getting rid of this too, because literally consecutive years, I just kept restarting the book, and I just never finished it. Another little stack right here. The only reason why I'm getting rid of these is because again, back in the day, I tried the audiobook for Concrete Rose and I really, really loved it. And so when I do go back to these books, I want to listen to them on audio. And then I sampled the audiobook for How It All Blew Up. And the audiobook is also really good. Again, as I was mentioning earlier, YA just has some really great narrators, and I just love listening to them on audio as I'm diamond painting or doing a puzzle or cooking or tidying up, doing chores at the gym, just doing my little walkie walk. So I'll be passing these on again to a friend's daughter who's like really excited about these books, and I can't wait to see her reaction when she gets these. So I think this is going to be quite exciting. And so I trust that these are going to the right hands, and that even though I am interested in these still, again, I want to reduce my YA section, and the person who's getting them next is going to really, really enjoy these. So that is really exciting to me personally. And now we need to get into the books that I am getting rid of because I am sadly no longer interested in these books. Would just like to let everybody know that Vin has officially dropped books on the ground and she has reclaimed her throne. Vin, literally look at her. She looks so angry. But you look stunning though. Like, you're one stunning cat baby. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Okay, ring light is on. Vin is hanging around back there behind the books. And I have pulled out more books that actually need to leave the shelves. So the first thing is I believe these are all of them, my paperback collection of ACOTAR. We can just let these go. Listen, I have no desire to reread a Sarah J Maas book. I am fine with it. I have come to terms with it. I had a terrible experience rereading Throne of Glass about, almost 2 years ago at this point, because it was definitely 2022, and I have not looked back since. I have in fact DNF'd the Crescent City series. I do not plan on continuing on with that. I am still doubtful that I'll even read ACOTAR, like the new book, when it comes out. I don't think I'll be doing it, so I can most certainly get rid of these. I'm sure somebody will really appreciate these here in Panama, and they're not annotated or anything. These actually need to be here. I'll show you those in a second. And then another book I read literally 4 years ago, because I read this in 2020. I liked this enough, but I definitely did not love it. This is The Miracles of the Namiya General Store. This is a literary translated fiction. Again, liked it enough, not enough to keep it. I've kept it for 4 years. I literally never talk about this, never recommend it, so I think I can depart with that one. Now, this next section are all unread books. I've never touched these, never read them. My hope at some point was to read them, but I think for some of these, they got here and they were books from book boxes, so I was barely interested in them. Some of them I was actually really excited about when I got them, and slowly but surely through time, that excitement has faded. And I think what I'm telling myself with this unhaul is when I touch this book, when I see this book, when I see this title, do I get excited to read this book within the next 6 months? And if the answer is no, likely chances are it needs to leave, because recently I've been reading the books that I've been getting as I get them. And the reason why I'm not making much progress with my actual TBR is because I get books and I read them, but then I don't prioritize what's behind me. And at this point in time, I just have to be once more realistic in that I'm probably not gonna get to any of these books, especially because a lot of these I have owned for 3 to 4 years. And at this point, it's been 3 to 4 years and it's just never been a priority on top of other books. And I just have to finally let go. Pains me to say, but it's the truth. These were all books for videos. The videos never got done. The videos are never gonna get done. We have got Siddhartha. At some point I was planning a reading Harry Styles' favorite books video. That never happened. You guys actually called me out on that because somebody saw the books on my TBR card and somebody said, "Are you doing a Harry Styles favorite books video?" And I was definitely going to, and then it just never happened. So Siddhartha, you need to go, because under no context am I going to read this other than for that specific video. Also, let me not pretend that I'm going to give you synopses for either most or any of these books. I'm probably just going to tell you an anecdote as to why this is here and why exactly it's leaving, if that. But some of these I'm just gonna call out by title because I definitely don't know enough about a lot of these books to talk anything on them, because I obviously have not read them. So let me not pretend. We're just gonna be straightforward with this. Pax. It's middle grade. I really don't reach for middle grade anymore. I find myself reading probably one middle grade book every like 4 to 5, 6 months, and I have quite an extensive shelf, if we want to call it that. In fact, I've got 2 shelves full of middle grade books. Most of them are Rick Riordan though, but yeah, have to be realistic. Helm of Midnight was totally influenced by one of my favorite booktubers. I saw her really talking highly of this book and I was like, damn, Reagan just made that sound amazing. I have to read it. And I simply have not felt the same level of excitement as I did when I first heard her talk about it. So I just don't think it's gonna happen at this point. We have got Malice by John Gwynne. I think some of you guys are gonna get mad at that. We've got Bittersweet. I think this is non-fiction. Once more, Katie Robert. I think I'm just giving up on Miss Katie. I just don't find the same level of interest as I used to with her books. This is Pax number 1. I think the other one was Pax number 2. Again, I've got friends who have got kids. I'm sure something like this is going to come in really handy. Then we have got Mina and the Undead. I think it's a Dracula retelling, Mina Harker, but I just have never been too interested in it. We have got 2 Sayaka Murata books. This is the same author as Convenience Store Woman. I got these because at that point in time, or soon thereafter, I think, Book Depository was ceasing to exist, and I was like, I need every Sayaka Murata book. And I have not read anything aside from Convenience Store Woman, and honestly, I can find these both digitally and read them on Libby. The Martian. Are you guys gonna be mad about this one? I read Project Hail Mary, loved it. The audiobook was really good, but I've never felt that excited about The Martian. I thought I was going to love this and read this and rave about this, but I just don't know why I've never looked at this and went, yes, I'm gonna read The Martian. Not really. And this one kind of pains me just because I loved Project Hail Mary so much, but I just don't know. I don't know that I want to keep this and keep hoarding it and not consume this. I feel like it's another one of those. I mean, I don't know if the narrator is as good as Project Hail Mary. You guys can let me know in the comment section actually, because if the narrator is really good, I may just do that instead of the physical and then just pass this along to actually probably my uncle who loves sci-fi. Like, he is a sci-fi nerd, so maybe this one can go to him. More middle grade, we have got Paola Santiago and the Forest of Nightmares. I'm not going to lie, these covers are absolutely stunning, and I just wish that I felt excited about reading middle grade nearly as much as I did years ago. I simply don't. This one, honestly, just for the cover, I want to keep it. Like, come on now, it's a really stunning cover. Same with Pahua and the Soul Stealer. Like, these covers are everything. Whoever's designing these need a raise, but I just, again, have not been reaching for middle grade at all. Another book that was for a video is The Course of Love. I believe this was also for the Harry Styles video. I had a really horrible tendency a few years ago. Now that we're talking about everything under the sun, come on. Also, can I just show you the books I talk? Because I'm like, listen, maybe this would be a great way to just like like talk, narrate exactly where all this went wrong, and then just kind of move along to the next section. But I actually had this horrible tendency a few years ago to buy books because I had hyper fixated on certain ideas, whether it's that something was for a video or that I just really liked the concept and how it sounded. It's the ADHD brain that just held onto a crumb and I was suddenly obsessing over it. But if there's something ADHD is going to do is make me hyper fixate on something and then not pull through with it, okay? And I feel like that is the case for a lot of these books. That's not to say that these books don't sound interesting, because most of them really do. I would argue that a lot of these books, if not all of them, have got a certain charm that I can definitely see and appreciate, and also that I definitely at some point wanted to discover. But at this point, again, I just have to be realistic in that, again, these need to go. A Deal with the Elf King. I was obsessed with the idea of reading this. I was obviously going through my big elf, fae, like fantasy romance era a few years ago, and I was often disappointed by these types of books. These books are stunning, by the way. Like, the naked books are absolutely ridiculous. But do I remember I tried to read this and I just never connected with it. I tried several times. There are only two reasons why the elves come to our world: war or wives. In either case, they come for death. They come today. Even now, I see this and I'm like, I want to keep it. But will I actually read it? Likely chances are no. And that's how I feel about most of these books. In an ideal world, if I had enough space for all of these books, I probably wouldn't be letting them go, but I don't have space. My apartment's already small, y'all. I can't do this. I can't do this. This one also pains me. 9 Liars by Maureen Johnson. You guys know how much I love the Truly Devious series. However, after The Box in the Woods, I think I realized, after I simmered on it for a while, did the series actually need to continue? Not really. And at this point, I'm not even excited for 9 Liars, so I feel like that just needs to go. I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, I already established earlier. I think I'm gonna get the audiobook for that. Another one I'm getting rid of is Song of Wraiths and Ruin. That one needs to go. We have got Fat Chance Charlie Vega. I already established The Fraud Squad is also leaving. I think a bunch of these I already talked about in the Excel sheet portion of this video that I saw them, and I was like, yep, they definitely need to go. We've got The Burning Girls and The Plot, thriller, horror, respectively. Again, just really not into those genres, and although I occasionally dip my toes into thrillers, not enough for me to own a bunch of them instead of prioritizing the ones that I really do want to read. And then in the realm of romance, we have got A Lot Like Adios by Alexis Daria. I read, oh my god, what was the first book? You Had Me at Hola. I really didn't love it. I liked aspects of it, but not the book as a whole, so not that excited to read that. We have got The Roommate. I know Rosie Dana now is publishing, I think, like paranormal romances, which honestly, if she is exciting, because I've seen a few of her latest covers. You Had Me at Worst, I think it's called, or something at worst. Do Your Worst, something worst. It looks cool. And then I think she's got like a werewolf one coming out. I want to read that, but maybe not The Roommate. The Spanish Love Deception I bought for a TikTok video. I never read it. We've already established Trick Mirror. It's not my type of book. All adults here going to let this go. I remember reading the first handful of pages and I didn't connect with it too much. And then we have got, spoiler alert, and another Katie Robert book, The Sea Witch. Sad that it's the sapphic one, but Katie Robert, you've met my end in my bookshelves and it's gonna be okay. I am not gonna lie, you guys. I am so overstimulated. It's crazy. I just want to be done with this. I feel like I'm sitting in a sea of books, which is not the worst thing to ever happen. But goddamn, pushing beyond the overstimulation currently happening in this household. Year of the Reaper and the Ravens. I remember seeing a lot of great things about the Ravens and also Year of the Reaper, but I just don't think, again, at this point in time, that they are going to be read in this household. Again, the two gothic-esque thrillery books I mentioned towards the beginning, The Death of Jane Lawrence and For Your Own Good. I think I did go through a period where I was very much into these sort of, again, like thrillery, horror-y reads. Not anymore. The older I get, the scaredy catter I get. And so all these are gonna have to go. I know this one I think is more fantasy than actually thriller, but all of these like cozies, thrillers, and all that are gonna have to go. I'm just going to push through the rest of the Book of the Month books that I am going to let go of. We have got Yerba Buena, we got Lunar Love, we also have got Rock, Paper, Scissors, got The Verifiers and the book on cold cases. Of cold cases. I have checked so many times with a lot of different people and they're all like, girl, if you don't like horror, don't read that book. So you know what? I'll be listening this time. I don't even know what these are doing here. Let me be quite honest with you. I went through a phase where I wanted to collect the Barnes & Noble. I guess these are like cloth bounds of a kind. I was obsessed with the idea of collecting these. Why do I have Great Expectations by Mr. Dickens? I never wanted to read this, but I own it. And then The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I don't. If you are ever wondering, I love that Syl has jumped up there. If you are ever wondering what overconsumption looks like, look no further than this video. I don't even know, dudes. I don't even know what's happening. I am being chased by the mistakes of my overconsumptive consumerist. Honestly, it feels like the Ghost of Christmas Past. That's what this feels like. A few others we have here are This Spells Love. We have got The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I've already established, again, not too overly curious to read more from the author. And then we have got The Intern, which I know is a legal thriller, mystery, something along those lines. But I think what I've convoluted a lot in the past for myself is what I like consuming visually and what I like to read. And often they don't overlap. I love watching sci-fi. I love watching thrillers, but do I love reading them? Not all the time. And I think that realization has been important for me so that I don't buy books that I know I'm not going to read down the line. Lesson learned. Do you guys remember this? If you've been watching my channel for a while, then you'd know that I was obsessed with the idea of reading Lobisona. This one pains me to let go of just because I remember my excitement over this book, and I remember how excited I was when I did receive the book. However, it's been sitting on the shelves for so long, and anytime anybody mentions this book and are you still going to read it, I know in my brain the realistic answer is no. And honestly, with a lot of these books, that's a painful thing to admit that I own these books and I've owned them for a while. It almost feels like I neglected them in ways by not reading them, but there's just not enough time in a lifetime, I feel, to read all of these. Unless you're the type of person that reads 500 books a year, I definitely am not. So I just know for me and the number of books that I read a year, I will never see the end of these piles if I just don't, you know, rehome these. Thankfully, I think throughout the past couple of years, a lot of people in my life have either started reading or started vocalizing their love for literature. So I know for all of these books, they will find a great home. These two books are gorgeous, okay? Spells for Forgetting and Violet Made of Thorns. These I got from book boxes because I was repping for them, but was I ever really excited about these? The answer would be not really, but they are stunning books. They really are really pretty. Now we're about to walk into section 3 of this video, but before we do, I think I'm going to make myself a chai latte because we need a cozy drink for the rest of this on-haul. Section 3 I am titling The Final Showdown. So welcome friends to section 3. We're done. Friends, I think we are done with the on-haul. I also look like I've gone through all 9 circles of hell at this point. I need to give you an update on the last few things I pulled. I, of course, went through every single shelf. I really pondered over my decisions and I really thought things through. I also started pushing books kind of toward a side of the shelf so that I could see just how many gaps we actually have. And we actually have quite a bit of gapage. You'll see the ones over once it is time to reorganize this situation. But I feel like this on-haul has been quite extensive and I'm surprised because I genuinely did not think I was going to be able to pull out these many books, but I think we have done it. I think we have actually done it. Let me give you the final rundown. Completely different genres here in age groups, but we have got these 2 books first, or I guess this one series, this one book. I have been holding on to Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff because it's a really stunning edition. I've got the Illumicrate one. It is absolutely ridiculous. Like literally when you take the dust jacket off, this book is just out out of this world. They really did a stunning job with this edition. However, I've had this book since, when was this sent out? 2021. I didn't have the best experiences with Jay Kristoff when I had initially read his books, and so I think I'm gonna be okay. I think I'm gonna let this go, and hopefully this will find a new and better home. I can just imagine what the people will think in the donation center when they see that book. They're gonna be like, who the hell left this here? Me. It was I. Magnus Chase. I am thinking, particularly for the middle grades that I am getting rid of, I'm thinking of grabbing those and getting them over to my high school, because I don't know what the library is looking like these days, but that library got me through some really tough moments when I was younger and when I had first gotten into reading. It was because of the school's librarian, and it was also because of just the kindness of the people who had donated books to the library, because I'm pretty sure they don't buy books. I think everything that's in there are donations. I'm thinking I'm going to grab a pile of YA and also middle grade books and just take them to my high school and spread the joy a little bit, because I'm sure they'll appreciate it. And again, hopefully some students will read these and love them. So thinking that's where those are going to go. I've had the Magnus Chase series for a hot second. I've never picked it up. I still am not even done with the Heroes of Olympus series by Rick Riordan. I got up to House of Hades because I was reading them as they were coming out, and then I never finished that one, so I still have got to finish my reread of Percy, and then I've got to go into my reread of the Heroes of Olympus and finish that, and I think that's gonna be it. I think that's where I'm going to cap it. I'm not even gonna read the newest Percy books because I can't do it anymore. It's just, I have to close out that chapter and call it good. Pachinko is one that I am thinking, does it stay? Does it go? Do I keep it? Do I let it go? It is historical fiction, as you guys know. I'm not the biggest fan of historical fiction. It's not my favorite genre. I often kind of slog through it, and so I got this for a video actually, and I never read it for that video. I think the premise sounds interesting enough, which is why I have kind of kept this on the side as I've been unhauling, because I'm not so sure that I want to get rid of it, because I'm thinking for a series I am starting on the channel, it may be a good little pick to have on the pool. And then we have got These Hollow Vows. This has been compared many times to Aquatar, and I have outlived my Aquatar era. I have outlived my SJM era long ago. I think the last time, again, I read one of her books was 2022. I've got no desire. I asked Liv, who has read this, and she's like, listen, if you want a silly, goofy YA time, then yes. I'm never in the mood for a silly, goofy YA these days, I feel like. Then we have got The X-Hex and The Kiss Curse. I was going to hold on to these because I thought this would be like really good reads for October, but then I sat down and I read the first chapter of each, and I did not like at all, so I'm just going to let those go. And then we have got these. Now I know, I mean, first of all, look at these pages. I don't know what happened to these pages, but none of my pages look like these on the shelves, except these. I mean, these are old, because obviously, I mean, they are in the old covers. I was reading these when I was in middle school. However, the pages look horrendous for like no reason at all. Now, these I'm gonna let go of because I remember not liking the Infernal Devices when I was younger. I was obviously keeping these because they're the original covers, and I have a lot of nostalgia for the Mortal Instruments. But as I was going through my shelves just now, I really just came into the idea that I have nostalgia for the Mortal Instruments, but not so much for this, and I can just let this go. So these ones are going as well. Sad about the pages, like literally insane what has happened to these, because nothing else on that specific shelf that these were in is looking like this. So I think this must be the old age. I've got these two right here. Honestly, stunning covers, like really striking. I love the colors of these. Maybe you should talk to someone and then Crying in H Mart. Both of these are nonfiction, memoir, and self-help, and I have the audiobook for both of these, so I will definitely consume through audio. Typically for nonfiction, that's what I do. I rarely sit down, if ever. I don't think I've ever done it actually. I never sit down to read nonfiction physically, so I can let go of these because I got them from Book of the Month, but honestly, I just know myself I'm gonna end up listening to them, so there's no purpose. Velvet Was the Night by Celia Moreno Garcia. Honestly, thought I was interested in this, but again, it's leaning more on the historical end. I know it's got something to do with, I think, the Russian mob or something. Honestly, I don't even know. I love Mexican Gothic and Gods of Jade and Shadow by Celia Moreno Garcia, but I think what I love so much about her books, or what I've loved in the past, is more of that historical Gothic thriller horror vibe, and then also the fantasy aspect of it. So these that are more so like plain up historical, not so interested, though I am kind of looking at The Seventh Veil of Salome. I think if I do end up reading it, it'll be digital though. The Summer I Turned Pretty. Also got these for a video, never ended up reading them. I just don't think they're my speed. I don't think they're my vibe, so I'm going to let these go. I was even keeping them because I was like, oh wait, but maybe reading the first one for like a challenge video could be fun, but will I actually? Listen, I did a challenge video this month where I had no power over what I read and the books were chosen at random, and every single one of the books I pulled for the most part were books that I was definitely not interested in, and I think it really made me realize that my success as a reader really thrives on me reading what I want to be reading and not pushing myself to read something just to be experimental. Like, I can be experimental within what I do actually want to read, but not experimental to the point where I'm putting my own enjoyment on the line, and I feel like these books would probably infringe on that a little bit. One I'm going to give to my brother. I went through a, oh my god, that just kicked up a lot of dust. I went through a phase where I was getting loads of Batman content on thrift books, and my brother was very much behind that. Like, he was heavily influencing me. I was like heavy into my comic era. I was reading House of M and a bunch of Marvel comics, and he was like, get the Batman stuff, it's so good. And then I got this, and where's the other one? I don't know, but I've got another Batman one, Hush, that I most certainly will be passing on to him because he's going to love these. He's already read them, but I think owning them physically is something that he's really going to appreciate, so that one's going to Brother Reads. Another one that you guys are going to be like, Mel, what the hell? The special editions for Throne of Glass and A Court of Thorns and Roses. Again, hold no affinity towards these series anymore. I have grown and we are departing. We are going in our separate ways, so these again would be better off with somebody who is going to really, really love these or already really loves the series. And then we have got two more Book of the Month books, both which I have read. I was going to hold on to these because I have read them and I enjoyed them enough. With The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina, it has a very similar plotline to Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I enjoyed Family Lore more. So to me, in my head, I'm like, ooh, what would I recommend if I was asked? I would probably recommend Family Lore instead of Orquídea Divina. I think I'm gonna get rid of this. Head Over Heels was one of the books I read in 2020 as I had recently joined booktube. In fact, I think this was like my very, very, very first Book of the Month book, and I enjoyed this. It was a 4-star. Like, it was a good time, but I have never recommended it since, and I think it's time for that to go. And we also have some classics. Well, actually classics and a nonfiction that made its way into this little pile, but Untamed, also for a video. I never made the video, and outside of the context of that video, I just wasn't interested in reading that book, and I will not be reading it because the video will never get done. I think it was also like a celebrity reads and a celebrity had loved it. I don't even know anymore. The Haunting of Hill House. This is going to one of my best friends who absolutely loves Shirley Jackson and who loves just gothic stories, and this is more her speed, and she's already read this. She was like, listen, if you get rid of it, pass it on to me, so I will. Then loads of classics. War and Peace was also for a video. We're not even going to talk about it. In what world did I think I was actually going to read it? I don't even know anymore. Then we have got The Custom of the Country, another book that I was hoping to read for a celebrity video. That video obviously did not see the light of day. And then we have got Lady Susan, The Watsons, and Sanditon by Jane Austen. I'm never gonna read it. I'm just interested in her main works, to be honest. Macbeth was also for a video. Never saw the light of day. Fairy Tales by Hans Christian Andersen. I have the Mina Lima edition, so I really don't need this. And then we have got The Fall of the House of Usher and Other Stories. Funniest thing is that three of these three, I got at a bookstore here in Panama, and literally only got them because they were $5 each, and because I saw books in English and I got overexcited. But did I actually want these, or did I just want the feeling of buying something at the bookstore? Because I was barely finding anything here in Panama, and so I bought them. We have reached the end of today's video. This unhaul has truly and thoroughly taken it out of me, but honestly, it's been really rewarding to see the progress, see all the empty spots on the shelves, and seeing how the shelves are looking now, where gaps exist, and I'm already machinating mentally how I'm going to move things by the time that I do the reorganizing, because I am thinking of separating my read books from my unread books and then making these smaller Billy shelves, display pieces. I have many ideas in my head, but I feel like I'll only be able to start solidifying those once I am done with that portion. However, I just went through the task of going through my Goodreads and eliminating every single book that I unhauled in this video, and we are officially at 230 unread books. I genuinely wanted to bring it down to a net 200. I just think it's not possible. I look at the rest of these books and I think, oh yeah, yeah, I do want to read these, so I am finding it difficult to spot 30 more books to get rid of, but I am sure maybe in the coming days, and also when I take everything off the shelves and I reorganize, I don't doubt that I'm gonna look at 30 books and go, these are also going, so that I can bring it down to, again, a net 200 and reorganize this whole situation. It is honestly crazy how many books I pulled out of the shelves. In fact, there were even books and graphic novels and stuff on the shelves that I hadn't even logged on Goodreads. So technically the amount of unread books has gone even more down because a lot of these things for some reason were not on Goodreads. I will assume because I probably forgot to update Goodreads when I got the book. And so I am very pleased with the process and with the progress of it all. I know often unhauls can be upsetting for the audience, and I know it can stir up a lot of opinions, but I hope that overall you guys really enjoyed this one and that you understand exactly why this is happening. It's not that I am ungrateful in any way for any of these things. Like, Lord knows it's the complete opposite, but I think I've just been extremely overwhelmed by the amount of things living in these shelves that I just needed to let go of. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it was high time. I was long overdue, and this just feels so cleansing and so amazing. And I think realistically, every once in a while, just like I do my spring cleaning or just like I do my end of year cleaning, I had not done it for the shelves, and it was very much necessary. And I think what makes me happiest whenever I do an on-haul is just spreading the joy of literature to other people in my life or to third parties that, you know, I'll never know what they thought of the book, but just knowing that it made its way into better hands just to me brings me a lot of joy. And so even if some of these books may have been gifted by publishers or may have been gifted by some of you guys, just know and trust that whoever finds this book next will definitely very much appreciate it. I often go into the conversation of the lack of accessibility or how expensive books are here in Panama. And I think specifically when it comes to books in English, they can be really hard to find, which is why a lot of kids and a lot of young adults and a lot of adults in general don't tend to read in English unless they're savvy and in the know and well versed into ordering things online. So I know whatever it is that I'm unhauling today, whether it's going to my brother or to my friends or to other family members or to family of friends, or that I am donating to free little libraries, or that I am taking back to my high school, I just know that, again, whoever picks up these books next is going to receive the joy of literature. They'll receive it for free, which for me is always a blessing. Whenever I take books out of the shelves, I never resell them. I just donate them because I know how often these things can be hard to find here. I'm very excited to be able to donate all of these, and it's low-key making me a bit emotional because I just remember the joy of going to the bookstore when I was younger, whether it was here or somewhere else, and just finding one book brought me so much joy, and it was the exact escapism that I needed. And to just think about the fact that one of these books could be that for somebody else, if they're going through a hard time, if they are not finding anything at the bookstore, maybe if they don't have money to purchase the next book that they can or want to read, even if they've been looking at titles that, again, are not available here or that they've been waiting a really long time to read, if any of these books that I am unhauling fit any of those quotas, I think in turn I feel extremely happy that, again, it could fulfill that for somebody else. So there's that. As a final look over, these are all of the books that I am getting rid of. I am honestly, again, so grateful for every single bit of kindness that anybody has extended my way to make sure that these books have made their way to me. A bunch of these I've obviously bought with my own money that were for videos or that I just wanted to have in my collection. But I think, again, it's time that they move along, and I can't believe this. It's so like overwhelming to think I've been doing this for 2 days now, and I still have got to go through the aftermath of like separating this into different piles and figuring out what goes where. But I am extremely satisfied with the result. I just did the dad's thumbs up, okay? Fulfilling the dad stereotype always. 1 second away, guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a massive thumbs up and comment down below. Have you unhauled anything recently from your shelf? Do you unhaul? Do you keep everything that you purchase or that you're gifted? How do you go about your unhauling? Do you exclusively unhaul things that you have read and didn't enjoy, or things you don't want to hold on to? Do you also unhaul books that have been sitting on your shelves for a while and that you know you're not going to read anymore? I'd love to know you guys' thoughts. And if you've read any of these books, sound off in the comments, because maybe somebody else will look at the comment section and go, maybe Mel unhauled that book because she didn't read it or she didn't like it, but maybe somebody else will see a positive opinion or a really good experience in the comment section that'll encourage them to pick up the book. So make sure to sound off in the comments if you have. And if you reached the end of the video, let us leave some book emojis. Let's just keep it plain and simple. Any and all book emojis you want to leave in the comment section, let's do that if you reach the very end. Don't forget to check out Skims Fits Everybody collection down in the description. Right at the top, you'll see the link, skims.com/MelReads. And if you'd like more content from yours truly, there is a Patreon. It's got tons of exclusive content from live shows to videos to book clubs to a Discord server. It always helps support the channel extra to get equipment and expensive things because tech often is, and it just helps keep moving things smoothly and along. So Patreon is always linked down below alongside the rest of my socials in case you want to find me anywhere else. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, for being here, for being the kind, lovely, amazing, stunning people that you are. I just am constantly overwhelmed by this, and I don't know why doing this on haul has made me so emotional, but I am literally just in a headspace right now of just expressing my thank yous for some reason. I don't know if Mercury retrograde, if the Mercury in the microwave is messing with my head. That's it. That's all I've got for you today. I don't know if I crushed this on haul or if this on haul crushed me. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.